pick here. I do feel like, you know, the glaive and the adagio works really well in this situation, but the Taka does work really good to counter up against the Sky. However, like, they will be picking their next two first on the side G2 Kinguin. If they go with Taka, I feel like they're going to get counter-picked by Team Clesia very well. Luckily, you know, you have Dark Potato that usually is the one that's running out that glaive, either in the lane or in that jungle, but he's very dominant with it. Like, when I look at G2 Kinguin, I feel like this team resembles a lot like, you know, Gangstar Sirius over in North America when they had Colin Meek and Gabe Visual on the team.
Absolutely. So we are seeing here a lock-in of Taka, second time of the day, followed here game by game. And the Black Feather pick here on Team Clesia, that is a very interesting composition here. Personally, just tell me if I'm wrong here, but the comp from G2, very unusual.
It is unusual. It is set up to do a lot of countering, especially going up against that Sky.
Okay.
However, you know, I'll give G2 the early game composition. I do think that they're going to take the advantage. Late game, though, it's going to be Team Clesia. I think this is where they're really going to hit their power spikes around like the 12-13 minute mark. And you know, those late game team fights is what determines everything. So how they get there, if they don't get snowballed, they do have a chance to knock out and upset G2 Kinguin.
Alright, so we will see. I personally think the draft from Team Clesia went not too bad. Arden Blackfeather Sky. Yeah. The Taka is, for me, always personal, seeing from a personal standpoint, a little bit of a variable, which is pretty hard to put on a spot. It's very hard. But thanks for your insight, Rom. We are throwing it into the game. Action Jackson and X Control with the game. G2 Kinguin, Team Clesia, take it away, guys.
All right, so we got Taka twice in a row. Reddick's going to be picking that one up this time as we move into the first game of G2 Kinguin up against Team Clesia. Now, G2 Kinguin, they placed second in the first qualifier for spring. Clesia did not actually make it into the round of 8 last time. I think they only made it to the round of 16. So this time around, they're performing a little bit better. But can they take down formerly second place Team G2K? It's going to be interesting to see.
Absolutely. Now, I want to pick up a couple of things here that I can see just from the compositional point of view, Jackson. Obviously, we know where they ban Rhyme, as you can see. Oh, we're already seeing a fight going on, though.
Lore, he is very, very low right now. I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of this. He just barely escapes. Reddick's rotating down, too. Means we're going to have the 3 versus 3. Reddick's doing some nice damage here. Has Kaku if he needs to back away, and indeed he does. I'm kind of surprised Lore stuck around as long as he did. Things could have probably gone badly for them, but Clesia, at least in terms of the damage numbers, coming out ahead in that first trade.
Yeah, but you would expect that with Lure being so low when they came for the fight. Now, yeah, I just want to point out the composition that you can see where they banned Rhyme. No ranged heroes, 2 melee type carries. Rhyme would be a direct counter to the composition that they wanted to run, so they obviously went and banned that. It's super interesting to see that, you know, they are all in on essentially deleting someone like Sky. I feel like to make this composition work, they're going to need an early Crucible just to get through and make sure that the Gauntlet doesn't ruin their hopes and dreams, which obviously could be the case. As I say that,
yeah, we're going to see another fight here. Lure very low yet again, but Justman likely to follow. Dark Potato able to pick up that kill on the return. Got Redix rotating down, but look at this. Forward Barrage predicts where he's going to go. Dark Energy gets so much damage down that John X is able to pick up the kill. Dark Potato could be next. He is slowed up by On Point, does not have Afterburn for another 10 seconds, goes down. 3 kills in one fight at 2 minutes for Team Clesia. Man, very strong showing in the early game, even though Rome was just talking about their late game potential.
Yeah, but I feel like it's just been mispositioning from G2 Kinguin. I think Lure has been way too aggressive. I think in general G2 are being far too aggressive at this point in time, especially having lost that early trade. They lost a little bit of the potential from the jungle. I wouldn't count G2 out though at this point. They still have a Takura and a Glaive who are very effective at deleting threats. The issue is that, you know, as this game goes on, you're going to have 2 huge threats, and realistically, with the composition that we're seeing from G2, they will be combining their resources to deal with a singular threat. So if Blackfeather becomes too much of a threat in his own right, and also Sky, then you have to choose who you want to focus down. You know, ideally you'll focus Sky and then hopefully burst it quick enough so that you can just rotate and try and deal with Blackfeather. But like I said, I think the early Crucible is going to be key here. They want to make sure the Gauntlet is really putting in much of a resistance for them to be the highly mobile team that they need to be. Because remember, this is a composition that is entirely focused around being mobile enough to deal with Sky. So I think we just have to wait and see whether that actually works out. And just saying that Redix goes a little bit aggressive, forced to use Kako defensively there. He's going to come out again with a little bit of health in his back pocket.
Dark Potato is doing some nice damage whenever he can get attacks down. John X. Oh, look at that. Dark Potato gonna pop him. Man, John going a little bit too hard there is picked up by G2K. They finally managed to find themselves their second kill of this game. Redix, you can see, really aggressively using his flip just to help him farm, even when it puts him in a dangerous position. But with the help of his team, he was able to make that one work out. Clesia, gotta be careful about getting a bit too overconfident after their early success here.
I feel like you've just showcased what G2 are aiming to do with the majority of those threats throughout the game. You have to burn them backwards, and then obviously Taka Redix just blows them up. So I think that was a perfect example of how this composition wants to work. It's just whether they can continue that success. And obviously you're going to see the Crystal Power Taka, and you're going to see the Weapon Power Glaive, as you would have expected. I don't know why you'd expected anything else. So yeah, I mean, they are looking to blow a singular person up and then hopefully have enough left in the tank to deal with a second threat of Blackfeather. Well, I mean, they could ideally deal with Blackfeather first and then deal with Sky, but I think realistically you want to deal with Sky first.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a safer bet, just because 2 Rose offensives in a row is a lot of time where you're not taking very much damage. Already we're seeing Clesia start to group up a lot. They wanted, I believe, to cover John and Dark Energy going to the shop there, because obviously G2 have the ability to come out of nowhere and just blow you up, so sticking together when you're making that rotation makes a lot of sense. But G2, they're responding in kind, starting to move up towards the lane, looking for opportunities to get ganks.
That the forward barrage is used there offensively. Redix, he's going to be just trying to bait out. He does have Kaku, so he can be aggressive if he needs to.
Yeah, but Just Man Zero's nearby. John is also here. X-Retsu in. Look at the damage. Dark Energy nearly goes down. A flare reveals Redix, but with the movement speed, he's able to get out of there as Lore makes his way up for backup. John doesn't spot out Redix with the on point either. So Redix moving forward here might go for a bit more damage. Gonna be jumping onto John. Actually just using that to farm up to dodge some damage. But I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen Dark Potato make his way up here to help. Given the amount of action in the lane, obviously Glaive could have probably pretty easily taken down Dark Energy there, but this is something G2 does a lot, leaving Dark Potato by his lonesome in the jungle to farm up and become strong, that weapon of mash destruction that we know so well.
Well, I don't think he was necessarily needed in that situation. I feel like Redix is just able to apply and be a threat in his own right. You saw how low he took Dark Energy in that situation. I don't even think he actually used his ultimate at that point either. So I just think, yes, committing to a fight at this point would be great, but why not hit some item spikes? Why not get that Sorrow Blade that I think, yeah, there you go, Sorrow Blade picked up a Dark Potato. Why not finish what is a first item Aftershock here for Redix? So they finished those items. Now would be an opportunity where I think they would look to group and try and make a pick or the like, since they've got some minor early game item spikes, which should give them a good opportunity. Redix has to be careful though.
He gets revealed there by the forward barrage. I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of this. He does get a dodge through with the flip, but not going to be enough. Finally, G2 starting to rotate out and maybe back him up as Dark Potato tries to pick up the kill onto John, but the on-point shield is too much for him to deal with. Lore having a body block right now just in case that forward barrage comes across. Not the best positioning from the members of G2 to facilitate that kind of aggressive play coming across from Redix.
Yeah, he has been sort of, I guess, pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable for him to do in lane so far. As I said,
John, I mean, that time it was really him going a bit too over-aggressive. Lore is able to pick that one up, but Dark Potato very low. He's trying to get onto the back line. He is being healed up a decent amount, but Lore needs to get onto Dark Energy. He finds the kill. That's going to be the gauntlet, but there's no one left for it to really take down as Redix just barely saves the life of his teammate. It's going to be the ace at 7.5. Actually, sorry, almost 8 minutes for G2, and a gold mine off the back.
They should be able to take this down fairly quickly. Yeah, I think that was a little bit of an overstay. They were, I think, themselves trying to bait out this gold mine. in the sense that they were just trying to ward off and maybe try and pick it up after having some success.
Ooh, that was close.
That was close to a steal there.
It was very close to a steal.
John looking for something to happen. Don't think he can do it 1 versus 2 though, and we'll just back away. Yeah, I think with these item spikes having been picked up, Redix is actually doing a lot of damage with this aftershock at this point in time. So I guess they will be looking to exploit that as much as possible. Before
Noticeable difference between this and last game is the time at which the aftershock was picked up.
Yeah.
Much earlier this time for Redix, so he's having a far bigger impact than we saw last game with the Taka who went aftershock.
And this is not the situation where you jump in, you expect to die instantaneously. The aftershock has a little bit more application in the sense that actually you could look to get a couple of rotations off before you die, because you have 2 threats that are jumping in the form of both Dark Potato and Redix. Obviously, Dark Potato is sufficiently farmed that you can rely on him. Oh, whoa,
Look
okay.
at that damage coming across. Redix and Dark Potato easily able to take down Dark Energy, just like you were speculating. John going to be the next target, has got the Rose defensive over the wall to buy some space, but look at this. Dark Potato finds another one on the other side, and we're going to be seeing John go down. It's another ace for G2, really starting to ramp up the pressure.
So I want to just point out why Aftershock has worked so well in this situation compared to the last game. I know it's not entirely relevant with the teams, but G2 can rely on Glaive to jump in and be a viable threat. The problem with that we saw with the Taka last game that had the Aftershock is that Blackfeather actually didn't have enough itemization to be relied on in a team fight, so therefore couldn't. And as such, you saw the Taka being the sole focus. The issue for Team Clytia just right now is that the Dark Potato and Redix are threats, so they need to either split focus or focus one down, but if they do that, they'll just be receiving a punishing from the other. So the issue with the Taka last game was that they could focus down Taka and they weren't receiving a punishing from the Blackfeather. This case, however, for G2 is that this Aftershock Taka can jump in and be a threat, but they also have to worry about this very heavy hitting Dark Potato. That sounds funny. It's very heavy hitting Glaive at this point in time too.
There's a reason why we always make puns about Dark Potato. Just the best name in VGL, I gotta be honest.
I would actually have to agree. I think Dark Potato is a fantastic thing.
It makes my job so easy. When he's going in, I can be like, he's going yam! It's awesome.
So, it's calmed down just a little bit. Goldmine not particular. Well, actually, no, it's doing quite well. It's worth potentially taking if they can get a good setup for it. Gonna proc a scout trap, however, so that should alert Team Clytia to the positioning of G2 at this point in time.
Look at Clesia's position, though. I mean, they really are having to play very far back. The front camps, at the very least, being stolen away by G2. I think it's smart that they're not becoming over greedy and going for the back camps, too, but that's going to be X-Ratsu onto John. Redix threatening or posturing that maybe he wants to go in for the kill. Trying to bait, I think, a little bit for Dark Potato to find a good afterburn. John, admittedly, is in a good position to receive one. And look at the damage. Fountain is keeping John alive for now, though. And here comes the Gauntlet. Still, Redix and Lore able to get through. Keep the damage going on the front line as Dark Energy tries to play the perimeter of the fight, get the damage down from safety. Redix keeping the pressure on, though, even under the turret. He's really the one going yam this game. Not so much for Dark Potato. He's playing a little bit more reserved. But generally speaking, I mean, the map pressure coming out of G2 is pretty significant right now. Clesia forced into a corner and unable to do too much. Lore, as the substitute player for stepping in for Dingo, really playing very well. I think it's worth highlighting that as well. 3-1 and 5. You wouldn't know that he's a sub, that's for sure.
Now, obviously, Team Clytia had no idea that this potentially was going to be the full composition coming from G2, but how would you have felt about Finn instead of Arden, just in this situation?
I don't know if you want to bring these guys close to you. I mean,
I'm not talking about Forced Accord. Like, Forced Accord is a different matter. I'm just thinking about using Polite Company and Quibble. They're pretty good against dealing with melee threats.
Oh, definitely. That is a very good point. I personally think the absolute cream of the crop here would have been maybe a Catherine, though. Because if you silence them right after they go in, well, okay, now Redix can't stealth out. Now Dark Potato doesn't have follow-up for the afterburn. Lore, even, is someone who jumps in onto you. So being able to silence them once they're there sets up for Dark Energy to, position a little bit better off the back. Maybe for John to safely figure out which target he's going to be going on to.
I do like that, actually. I think both Finn and Catherine would have been fine in this situation. It's not really relevant for right now, but just theory crafting for potentially the next game, where if G2 try to run a similar composition, I don't think they'll be getting a similar composition if this does go the way of G2. Redix, they're looking for John overextending.
He's really far out of position there. That was very badly played. Dark Energy is going to be forced back to his turret as a fountain gets popped by Just Man. So for the next minute or so, that's not going to be off cooldown. Good opportunity for G2 to keep the pressure going. But yeah, I mean, I personally, if G2 win this game, would probably ban the Glaive, to be honest. I think that has been what has set up the most successful attempts. Redix normally goes in, not quite finishing someone, but Dark Energy, look right now, Dark Potato, just as described a moment ago, picks up another one. Just Man likely to follow if Dark Potato can stay close, and Lure gives him the speed to do that. The Fountain keeping Dark Potato and Lure healthy as they get back out of the base, and Redix going through for the turret. Things are starting to get a little bit out of control. I'm somewhat concerned that John might disconnect.
But potentially. John doesn't look very active right now, and that would explain his kind of crazy positioning in that last team fight.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, you can focus less on the game at this point if that is actually the case, and more in the sense that banning Glaive the next draft phase, I think makes a lot of sense. Just
actually, you could pick him.
Oh, wait,
seeing as your blue side next draft.
Yeah, you could pick it, but also if you wanted to ban, if you weren't planning on running a composition that surrounds Glaive, he is more relevant in compositions than Taka would be. Just, you know, he's a little bit more applicable to a wide variety of situations.
I can't recall what the ban was previously, but I would have guessed that Clesia banned out Scarf because Rex is so known for it.
I think it was Cruel. It was Clesia.
Oh, Dark Potato is known for Cruel too. There's a lot of stuff you got to ban against G2. Wow.
Yeah, and then obviously G2 banned Rhyme. Because I think actually Team Clytia was the team that we saw run Rhyme last weekend. Don't quote me on that though. There was definitely a team that ran Rhyme, and I was trying to wonder if it was Team Clytia, because that would make sense.
I think so.
That, yeah.
John's back now, but this is going to be the fight started off by Redix and G2. Redix taking very low, but he's got the Kaku to keep repositioning as he X-Rexes onto Dark Energy. Dark Potato trying to get onto the backline, but he goes down. Redix very low as well. It's the turnaround from Clesia just after we were talking about maybe what they needed to do moving into Game 2. They've come up with some kind of a remedy for their Game 1 woes.
Well, I think it could be this broken mid. It's starting to really ramp up the damage coming out from Sky at this point. I think once she picks up something like an Eve of Harvest, she might be fairly difficult to kill for both Taka and Dark Potato. I'm kind of wondering whether that was a well-chosen team fight. They didn't really get a surprise engage off. They also were fairly well telegraphed as to where they were hoping to move from. So, yeah, I'm wondering whether that was more a positional error and then a forced engage coming out from G2 as opposed to a Team Clytia doing anything particularly outstanding. It was a good gauntlet, to be fair. And we haven't... Oh, we do have a Crucible. So the Crucible is there for Lure. But yeah, I think it potentially was more of a forced engage issue, which allowed Sky the time and the necessary information to look for a good reposition.
Well, now G2 definitely in a bit of a tough spot. They don't have a lot of consistent DPS to take down the Kraken quickly, and actually Dark Energy wants to start a fight. Going for that death from above. Lure tries to jump forward, but he's not going to be able to shut him down. Dark Potato really needs to get onto Dark Energy right now. Redix is already there. They do find the kill. John going to be up next, but can Redix survive long enough? Kaku buys him some time. He is stealthed up here as Dark Potato should soon have Afterburn back again. That's going to be it, stunning up John. They pick up the kill. Just Man, only the Roamer alive for Clesia now, and it's certainly going to be the ace for G2, but look at the Kraken,
the Kraken
just wreaking havoc in the base. It's going to be picking up at least the 2 turrets before G2 can even respond to it. That fight really gave up a lot of pressure for G2K.
Yeah, the issue there also for Team Clytia was Sky was so aggressive with her positioning, and I don't think she needs to be. Blackfeather can be the one that can be aggressive. Sky should just be using forward barrage at the maximum possible range to apply damage, and if she thinks that she's able to pick up a kill, can then maybe look to be aggressive. I wasn't totally sold on the way that Sky played that team fight. I just felt that she left herself open too far, or made it far too easy for her to seek an engage, or for the opposing team to seek the engage. And I think we need more of this more calculating position coming out from Dark Energy. He needs to be a little bit more relaxed about the way he's approaching these situations. So yeah, I think Team Clytia definitely have the opportunity to come back into this, and again, the pressure that they managed to receive from that Kraken was huge, and they've actually almost leveled the gold. Well, they're not almost leveled the gold, but they definitely made the gold difference look a little bit more reconcilable.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, certainly Clesia are not out of this, and that last team fight before the Kraken was a very encouraging sign. The problem is that they need to find more of those, and when you've got map control currently being freely gifted to the side of G2, I mean, Clesia just backing away, not even attempting to, you know, set up scout traps, for example, on their side of the jungle, it becomes very risky for Clesia to pick a fight like they did earlier on, where they actually did have pretty complete information about G2's positioning.
Yeah, my only counter-argument would be that Eve of Harvest and Serpent's Mask are there now for John and Dark Energy, so they have some form of sustain. If they manage to land their skills as their burst is happening, they may be able to out-sustain the burst, because, you know, CP Taka, he scales alright, but if you have a good forward barrage as he's looking to one-bomb you, then you should be able to out-sustain the damage. We have seen it from Skies before, especially if you get a missile barrage as well as getting a forward barrage as well.
Oh! Here comes what could be the fight. Dark Potato's going to face check, knocks Dark Energy back, but that's right as Redix goes in. They're on the wrong side of this fight. Dark Potato staying alive for now, but he is so low, the life's still not going to be enough. Dark Energy is maybe in a bad position here as Redix tries to go in for the kill, but another Surrey Strike comes across, and now Redix needs to get out of here. Lure isn't going to be able to do the damage he needs onto the carries. Redix only finds John, and it's going to be the ace for Clesia. Very well played fight, and given the fact that G2 had so much time to establish vision control, I don't really understand why they were face-checking that much.
Yeah, but also you saw exactly what we were just talking about. Sky was the target for a large majority, but just able to sustain consistently with that Eve of Harvest. A really nicely timed fountain as well. Justman held that fountain for a very long time before popping it. And as it popped, it really managed to draw that fight out. This is going to be yet another Kraken picked up, by the way, for Team Clytia. They seem to have found the key to unlock the composition coming out from G2 Kinguin, and all they needed was a little bit of that precious commodity in the form of time. And like I said, once this sustain is out, I don't think Taka now has the damage. He's actually gone his own Eve of Harvest. And you'd think that situationally, if he thought that he still had the potential to one-burst someone, that would have been something like a Shatterglass, or maybe something a little bit more aggressive. He's saying, okay, combine this with the Aftershock, I need to at least have a little bit more sustain in my offensive periods. Obviously, he has Kaku, which gives him some health back, but when he's looking to be offensive with X-Retsu and the like, he probably needs this, he thinks he needs this Eve of Harvest to survive. I think that situationally makes absolutely zero sense, given what the composition is designed to do.
Well, we'll have to see. He X-Retsu's onto Kraken there just to close the gap, but is obviously not going to be doing the damage onto Dark Energy. Redix trying to keep the pressure on with another X-Retsu. Dark Energy is actually very low this time and going to go down. Dark Potato did a decent chunk of damage onto John, so the fight is winnable for G2. They managed to find both of the kills. Justman likely to follow, going down to Redix, but the Kraken, meanwhile, is going to be picking up its first turret in the base. Should maybe be able to get two. I don't know if Redix... I think they got the damage. So just one turret. But even still, G2, I mean, they're not feeling too good about that.
No, I mean, obviously the Kraken is still providing a huge gold input for Team Clytia. The interesting thing there is I think Team Clytia are playing this wrong. They seem to be putting... John is basically going all in on Dark Potato, and at this point, I don't think our weapon power glaive is realistically your biggest threat. I think you should just be saying, okay, we need to be essentially going all in on the person that's trying to one-bomb Sky, which is obviously Redix. Sky has picked up an Aegis, so she can at least block an ability coming out from Taka. But this is really tense right now. And I'm actually going to eat my own words. I think that Eve of Harvest actually helped Redix a fairly decent amount in that last fight. So I'm going to eat my own words in that sense, because he was able to sustain, or out-sustain the damage coming out from Sky. And speaking of damage...
This is going to be Dark Energy. He's actually stunned. The wall goes very low very quickly, but the fountain keeps him alive for now. Gauntlet is going to provide that wall that he can place safely behind. Redix on the front side doing a decent chunk onto John, but Dark Potato first to fall. John is not going down just yet. Redix trying to finish him up, but look at this. John is surviving for a ridiculous amount of time. Redix, he's using the Kaku, but he's got nowhere to go. Gonna fall. It's a clean ace for Clesia, and surely, with only one turret left and 50 seconds on Redix, this could be the game going their way.
Maybe if that wasn't Eve of Harvest and that was Shattered Glass, she might have died. I'm gonna go back on my own words again. I don't know. I think that it's very situational about how that item can be used, and in those kind of team fights where you're trying to burst him out initially and very instantaneously, Shattered Glass would be better. But in the more elongated team fights, obviously Eve of Harvest is going to be a better item. I just think that you have Kaku, right, and you use Kaku mainly to heal up. So if you realistically feel like you're under pressure to need to heal up, then use Kaku. You don't. I don't think Eve of Harvest is necessarily
I'd
a
actually
solid
prefer
item.
him getting like a clockwork.
Well, just for the cooldown reduction. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
like...
kind of see that as well. Interestingly enough, that I think that Eve of Harvest on Sky was the key defining item that managed to help them win the game. I think it is. You know, when you have a Crystal Power champion that puts out so much consistent damage, and therefore can heal a consistent amount, I think going up against the burst composition, that is obviously always going to be the item of choice. But Sky managed to finish that Frostburn. Obviously, if you land a forward barrage on a attacker running at you, then obviously that buys you time. Also allows you to deal more damage as you slow them down. So, yeah, I think once that Eve of Harvest came down, Taka had a really difficult time. Both Taka and Glaive had a really difficult time dealing with the Sky. So, really well played by Team Clytia, and they show G2 Kinguin that they aren't just the underdogs. They've got some real teeth behind them.
Oh, they absolutely do, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can manage to take the entire series. But that was just game one, so we've still got at least one more to go. And to talk us through what we might expect and what happened in game one, let's pass it back to Blueberries and Rome.
Thank you very much, Action Jackson and X-Countrel. So, what a great game here. A little bit of back and forth. I personally saw Team Clesia having the upper hand, especially the first minutes. And then, you know, they lost 2 fights to G2 where they were able to ace them twice in just 2